Fans, we are back live on the Cheap Heat Productions podcast network. My name is Jack Kilby, no gimmicks guy on the socials, and I'm pleased to present episode number 2 of a little interview series we're calling Fast Forward to Frozen Fight Night, the amazing Flex Wrestling extravaganza happening February 28th at the Mud Creek Bison Ranch. And I'm also very interested in speaking to this man. He's a big man. He has a real style that you have to see to believe. He's competed in the first 2 Mud Creek Bison Ranch scramble matches and has a career in the New York State area of note. And I would be speaking of none other than my guest, Mr. Grizzly Olson. Grizzly, thank you for coming on today, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
I guess it's a good place always to start to ask, how did you become involved in the professional wrestling business? Was this something that you had in mind for a long time, perhaps as a fan growing up, or how exactly did you make that decision?
So very typically, like a lot of people growing up, I grew up in the Attitude Era. Grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era. So I was a fan growing up. So that was always something I wanted to do. And it's funny that everyone has 2016 nostalgia this year, 10 years later, because it was the year 2016 what really kicked off me actually chasing this as a dream. So I graduated college in 2016 and I was having trouble getting a job with my degree. And I have a degree in kind of, psychology, counseling and stuff like that. So I just decided to make a lateral move in what I was doing, which at the time, I was nearing 10 years at Little Venice Restaurant in Binghamton. And they always say, if you work there for 10 years, you're a lifer. So I kind of wanted to break that. So I made a lateral move to Domino's Pizza and became a delivery driver. And it just so happens that I met a gentleman by the name of Austin Molinari. And Austin was a wrestler at Excite Wrestling, and he worked with Johnny Moose. And Austin kept going like, hey, I know you're a fan. I know this is something you always wanted to do. So you should try and join. And at that point, I haven't done anything athletic for maybe a few years. So I was like, I am very interested, but I want to lose a little bit of weight, make it easy on the joints. So I went ahead, lost a bit of weight, started going to my, training classes. And I actually started maybe a couple months after Pat Sawyer, who also wrestles with Flex Wrestling. So started at the same time as Pat, and it was just so funny. So happened, once I started wrestling, I met another gentleman by the name of Brandon. He used to go by Super B. He used to wrestle. He hasn't for a few years, but just making that one lateral move led me to wrestling. And then wrestling led me to actually starting my career with my degree, and I got a job because of Brandon. Because he works at a facility that I ended up starting to work at. So just that, wrestling just did so much for me in that small amount of time, just chasing that dream. And it really just helped me further, not only what I wanted to do in life, dream wise, but the whole career too. So it was quite, I was very blessed in that.
Mm-hmm. That's a great story. With everybody talking about the Flex Wrestling Academy just opened this month in Elmira, and the quality training that's going down there, very exciting stuff. I thought I would ask you about your own training experience and what stands out in your memory from that. Was it what you thought it would be, or were you blown away when you actually got into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of the process?
I'm going to be honest. I kind of was blown away with the process of what it took to become a professional wrestler, because it's very not natural to the body. Compared to other sports where you're trying to kind of cheat code your body to doing, certain things for that sport with wrestling. Whereas you're not kind of helping out what your body naturally does, and you're teaching it to do something very unnatural, which is to fall over without, if you fall on ice, you're trying to reach or grab or catch for something, in wrestling, you're taught to fall safely, which is probably also a good thing. Cause a few times I have actually fallen on ice, I haven't gotten hurt. So, it definitely blew me away. I started at the Excite Academy with Sean Carr, and then took a little bit of a hiatus when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And the Excite School at one point was closed, so I trained down with at Work Rate Entertainment with Krakoa. And now I'm working out with HC Loke and Sean Carr again at the Flex Academy. And so I've had a lot of different, experiences when it comes to wrestling training. And, not everyone teaches it the same way. There's, 1,000 different ways. And everyone always says, I'm going to teach you, wrestling's like ice cream. I'm going to teach you this flavor of ice cream. I'm going to teach you how to make this sundae, or I'm going to teach you how to make this float. So it's definitely different. It's very unnatural, but at the same time, it's a beautiful art form. And once you get it down, you could really get to the meat and potatoes of telling a beautiful story.
Absolutely. Your name Grizzly, I mean, aside from the obvious being a big guy and a rough and tumble type of individual in the ring, how did you come up with that persona, and what does it mean for you when you're in that ring trying to communicate and get an emotional reaction out of the fan base?
So the whole Grizzly name, it really comes from the fact that my grandmother, she was such a huge fan, growing up, and she passed away when I was 12. So sadly, she never really got to see one of her own kin become a wrestler. And if she was alive, kayfabe would be 100% kept with me at all times, because she believed 100% it's still, in the realm of realness. But she gave me a teddy bear when I was little, and it was, a little brown grizzly bear. So I always kind of kept that name, and the character kind of derives from, what if Grizzly Adams met Wolverine, definitely it takes inspiration from Craven the Hunter, and stuff like that. I'm this big burly guy who will crush you, but at the same time, I will sit there and I will speak philosophy to you, and I'll speak, things, and I'm just not like a dumb oaf, it's like the duality of man, the nature and the nurture and all that stuff. So there's a lot of it. It's like an onion. I'm like an ogre, really. I got a lot of layers, and I'm really trying to peel those back and really explore it. So we'll see where maybe things go with Flex and what directions I could take it in. What was the second half of that question?
Just how you approach wrestling, as you know, is about making that emotional connection with the fans. And having witnessed 2 of your matches at Flex, you certainly had anything but an apathetic reaction to the fans. The fans paid attention to what you were doing at all times, and that really translates. How do you approach making that connection with the audience?
And so, right now, in the iteration of my character, he's kind of an axe murderer from the woods. And I try to give that fans that feel that because I carry the hatchet, and, I'm very slow and stoic. So I try to keep that, kind of jump scare them sometimes, or just make the crowd think I don't know what this guy's going to do. He might skin me. And I get that with the kids a lot. I even get it with a lot of adults. So I just, keep that real, and it's not always just, trying to say something to get a rise out of them. It's really taking in what they're saying and kind of just manipulating that to really getting an emotion out of them. Especially if you're the heel and you're taking on a baby face, you want to break that baby face down. So much so that they're trying to get behind that baby face. You're really trying to help the crowd, help the baby face. At the same time as you're taking in all that heat. So I really just, when I'm out there, I go as soon as I go through that curtain, I'm no longer Nelson Rodriguez. I am just Grizzly Olson. And I just really channel that. I'm a big horror fan, a lot of horror, I like a lot of horror movies, and I like a lot of fiction and stuff. So I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of studying about character-based stuff. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I also always, like Kevin Owens said, he spoke to Stone Cold Steve Austin. He said, how I do be a good heel. And he said, Stone Cold telling him never stop talking shit. And that's one thing I try to do when I'm out there. I never stop talking shit, even if the baby face gets up on me, and just really just taking in what, kind of feeling what the crowd wants. Cause I've had we've gone to some festivals where, you're not getting your common wrestling fan. These are people who are seeing a wrestling show for the first time. And I love my guys that could do a buttload of stuff in the ring, but I was watching these guys go in there and tell this wonderful story with their work rate, but they weren't really telling a story with their character driven work. So the crowd was kind of like, yeah, okay, cool. They're doing flips, but they didn't really know who to get behind. They didn't really understand what was going on. So when I went out there and I did the whole, heel thing and was telling like, ladies that were like maybe only in their 40s that like, the nursing home took a trip here, and just really like, getting them to like boo me and like getting them to cheer the baby face. And I know there's a particular one I wrestled Colt Allen at, and he did the whole Hulk Hogan gimmick, and like just being able to help him get that over and get the crowd behind him, and really getting all that heat on me. Like, I just know that like I might not be the best in-ring worker, and I'm always going to work on that. But one thing that I always get praised about is like my facial expressions, my character work, my promos, the way I talk and the way I deliver emotion and stuff like that. So I take that all in. I take the crowd's energy and I give it back to them. That's what I try to do.
Mm-hmm. Switching gears just for a sec, aside from psychology, you mentioned Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens, but were there any wrestlers that influenced your power-based style in the ring? Just speaking of the mechanics.
Yeah, definitely. I grew up, I always loved The Undertaker, because he could dish out a lot of punishment, but he is not doing a whole lot of special things. He's very slow and stoic. I'm a big Bray Wyatt fan. I definitely love, his balance between in-ring work and his character work, and he does a lot of good stuff. And I've always just like kind of like big hitting men. I definitely love I pick things up, I put them down, I hit hard. I love Sheamus matches. I love like Gunther matches because like they're not doing the most spectacular things, but it's like a car crash. You just can't look away. And so that's where I'm trying to get at currently is doing a lot of those big moves or a lot of punishing moves and really making the crowd not be able to look away. Cause like, oh, that sucks. That hurts. But at the same time, like I can't take my eyes off of it. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You've wrestled, you mentioned Excite and now Flex, and just the general New York State indie scene seems to be one of those, soon to be not, best kept secrets, but one, I don't want to say the term territory, if you will, but I'll say the term territory, really getting a buzz because of the quality of the product being presented to the fans. What do you think, having worked New York State, sets it apart from other locales?
Just not just because I'm from New York, but New York, like everyone is so passionate about wrestling here. Whether you're going to Flex Wrestling, Ground Zero, ESW, like any of these promotions in New York State, a lot of times you could go and they're not just putting together a card and saying good enough. Like they're putting on these shows with people that like they're hungry. They want to put on the show. They want to entertain the fans. They want to take it to a next level. And not only that, but they're caring about the production quality, the quality of how the ring looks and how the presentation looks. And it's not just like, all right, let's put on a show and make some money. And like, no, a lot of these companies, they're very passionate about it, from the promoters down to the people wrestling on the pre-shows. And there's just a lot of good talent in New York, a lot of good talent coming from outside of New York. And New York is one of those places where a lot of people want to wrestle, and there's a lot of good companies out here. So I definitely think that New York sets itself apart just purely because they're going to put on a good show. They're going to do stuff that makes sense. And and there's been so many viral moments coming out of New York wrestling that have made it to like ESPN and stuff like that. So it's just, you gotta come see it to believe it. If you're watching this and you haven't gone to a wrestling show, go to an indie show. Not only is it a little bit cheaper, but you're gonna get a good show. You never know who you're gonna see at these shows, and and you're gonna become a lifelong fan. Because at the first Flex Wrestling show, because I actually didn't wrestle in the first show, I was operating the lights, and while I was operating the lights, I was standing next to people who were just like, this stuff's it's not real. But by the end of the show, like they were into it. They were fans because of how good of a show Flex Wrestling put on. So I promise you come to a show, you're going to be thoroughly entertained.
And yeah, that's a germane point because folks may have noticed that there's less. This was yesterday. Less than 10 front row seats remain at the Mud Creek Bison Ranch for February 28th. So don't hesitate, fans. Go out to flexwrestling.com and get those tickets because you will get your money's worth. Speaking of Flex, how did you become involved with the promotion?
So, HC Loke, Sean Carr, those were some of the guys that were training me when I finally came back from wrestling. I was on a 2-year hiatus from 2023. Just kind of lost passion for it and had to take some time away. And, there was just some things, and they just had a lot of things, a lot of visions that they felt they needed to put out into pro wrestling. And so they, were coming up with the idea with Flex. And I remember going to HC Loke's 4th of July celebration, and they told us about everything that they wanted to do, and I was behind it since day one, and I've been behind it. I've been going there and trying to put in as much work as I can to help the promotion succeed. The promotion, everyone that does everything there is phenomenal. Like the advertisement is kind of unmatched. They do a lot of stuff. They put a lot of stuff out there, and they put a lot of care into it. And we also got to do stuff like Toys for Tots and donate a lot of stuff. So Flex Wrestling's doing a lot of good, not just to entertain the community, but also to give back. So once I kind of sat down and just listened to what they wanted to do, I was behind it 100% of the way, especially because these are just a lot of people that I've already been, kind of under and learning from. So, it's no brainer, come help them fulfill their, these dreams. And now, I get the privilege to wrestle on these shows and, be in front of a lot of people who, I've realized a lot of people have seen another New York show. So those fans who came over to support us, I appreciate you. And the fans that will, become new supporters and have been supporting us after they saw us, I appreciate you too.
You, on February the 28th, have a spot in the Mud Creek Stampede Scramble. I know that's something that you're familiar with, not only in Flex, but in Excite as well. How do you prepare mentally and physically for those chaotic, I guess is the best adjective, multi-man events?
Well, these things are so annoying. You don't get the opportunity to breathe. You can't turn your back for even a second because somebody's going to come in and get up on you. And as you saw the outcome of the last two, two wrestlers just came in and stole the match and ran off and act like that they're the greatest Mud Creek wrestlers ever. So how I prepare for it, I'm a man from out within the woods. I know how to survive out there. I know how to take on packs of wolves and stuff like that. You just have to really ready your awareness and be quick on your toes. A lot of these guys are faster than me, but they know that if I get my hands on them, it's not going to be very good for them. So my strategy is going to have to be to stop focusing on one person. I don't know. Whenever I see retro Zeke Rogers, I have to punch him in the face, and I got to not focus so much on that when I'm in the ring, especially when there's other, the Groff, another big guy like Groff in there, and CJ Settles was in there, and now this next one, there's a lot of good guys in there. I get the opportunity to punch Tyler Reed in the face again, but we really just got to focus on the goal, and that's winning the match, and not really just dialing out all the punishment I can. That'll come at a later time. You really got to do your best to get one up on everyone and be one step ahead of everyone. But like I said, it's really hard when every time you do something, you turn around, here comes the next guy and he hits you with something. And next thing you know, someone else is taking the pin from something else. And, you're kind of scratching your head like, what could I have done better? But, these things teach me how to be a better performer and a better wrestler. So
is it, we're going to get your prediction for the main event ladder match between Sean Carr and Shale Connors in a minute. But when you're competing in these scramble matches, given the fact that, there's now a heavyweight championship and, a lot of people are knocking on the Flex Wrestling door to get in, is it in the back of your mind that you need to come out with your hand raised in this one on February the 28th, just to have be in position or contention for that strap down the road? What's your ultimate goal in Flex itself?
My ultimate goal currently is to show everyone that I belong. that I belong there, that I'm just as much of a threat as the champion Sean Carr or as the contender Chael Connors is. I haven't won any gold in my career yet. I've been to a few dances and have come up short. But I really want to go there, and I want to build the mountain that I could stand upon, whether it be me winning the Flex World Heavyweight Championship or me just becoming a well-known name across New York and further beyond. I'm just really trying to build up the legend of what is Grizzly Olson, and just, more people. I think if I could put an ultimate goal, because I was watching everyone do this at the end of the year, they were listing people who they want to fight, who they want to wrestle. And I think by the end of this year, I want Grizzly Olson to show up on more lists. I want to be more in the minds of the fans and the wrestlers when it comes to, good competitors, good wrestlers. I want more people to really get behind Grizzly Olson. I want more people to boo me, but I want them to get behind Grizzly Olson and really, and just push further further than I already have. Doing a lot in 2026 to go further. So hopefully it works out.
Mm-hmm. Now, between Sean Carr, who really put in a dominating performance in December to become the Flex World Champion, the first Flex World Heavyweight Champion, and a man that has also turned heads, talk about all over New York State, a really accomplished young guy, can do some phenomenal things in the ring. In that ladder match, who do you predict to have coming out on top?
Listen, I love Chael Connors. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of spirit. He's got a lot of spunk. But I grew up going to 2CW. I've watched Sean Carr go through, match after match after match, taking punishment after punishment after punishment. And that only means for Chael Connors that Sean Carr is going to dish out a whole lot of punishment. And Chael Connors barely made it out of that first match after going through that table. So Chael's going to have a lot of work put out for him, and I don't see him walking out with the belt. Sean Carr retains. Spoiler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I concur with that prediction as well. But fans, you're going to want to be there to see that for yourself. February 28th, again, Mud Creek Bison Ranch. Go to flexwrestling.com. As you can see, the tickets, the seats are moving fast. You don't want to miss out. This question I think is always an interesting one, and you've discussed some of your life outside of the ring, so to speak. But for your fans out there and wrestling observers, period, what facet of your life would surprise folks, do you think?
I'm not really too sure. I definitely know that, I am currently a care manager, and I work with people who have OPWDD services. So these are people with intellectual and physical disabilities. And a lot of times when I'm meeting a new client, one of my ways in is they learn I'm a wrestler, and I'm instantly their favorite person. So I think maybe that would shock a lot of people. I'm also currently doing a, complete haul over of my wealth and health and wellness. I'm going through Elijah Dean, who Sean Carr went through, and I'm currently, working on, it's always losing weight, but, transforming my body and becoming a better competitor. So I'm taking that 100% complete more serious, and maybe, also, people that know and people that don't know, I, became kind of a stepfather this past year. So that's like a complete new experience because, I haven't had kids before. So I'm learning a lot, just even as that. So, probably the care manager thing, probably, how hard I'm trying to work and, the fact that I'm a family man.
Had a fan send a question in wanting to know what your absolute dream opponent could be. No parameters around that, not necessarily in New York State, but just all across the map. Who would that be?
All across the map, if I could get a dream match, it's really hard, because, at the end of the day, I would always question, can I give them a good match, but I guess it would be, it would I'd probably have to say Bray Wyatt, and I'd want to have like a very gimmicky, very story driven match with Bray and tell something wonderful. Maybe like another Firefly Funhouse type of match, where we get a little bit more of creative freedom of what we want to do and less limitations what we could do in the ring. Or even a match with the Undertaker, because that match, I feel like Mark Calloway could carry me to a wonderful match, and I love the Undertaker. So I guess one of those two. But if it came down to like an indie person, I'd probably say right now, probably someone like Mike Skyros. Someone that I kind of came up around at the same time, but obviously never hit the pause button and kept going. So I'd want to see how I fare against somebody like that and see what kind of story we could tell. So those would probably be my choices.
Yeah, both excellent. Last question, and this is a philosophical one, which is appropriate. But if you could give your younger self one piece of advice before stepping in that ring for the first time, what would that be?
Probably to never stop and keep pushing. Because I've taken I took the one pause because of the health reasons, and the other one was mental health reasons. But to really understand and really get a grasp of what it takes to be in this business, and a lot of times it takes just pure grit and determination, and just to keep pushing forward. The second time around I took a hiatus is because I felt like nobody cared, and I'll tell myself, and then that's fine that nobody cares, but you care, and you're doing this because it's your dream. So you need to keep pushing and do it for that younger self that probably wouldn't even believe us if we told them that we became a wrestler. So that would kind of be what I would tell my younger self, and to kind of take care of myself better, because delicious food and all that stuff is always there, but you could eat good and enjoy your food and still lose the weight and all that stuff. And it's just a lot of stuff that I struggled with, and just telling myself that I am good enough and stuff like that. Stuff that I learned, that I know now, I would try to give myself with pearls of wisdom, and really just help myself just push through a lot of things. I've always been very resilient, but there always comes a point in time where we all have our breaking point, and I'd kind of try to help myself understand that I am a lot tougher than I believe. But I've been very grateful for this run so far. I've been over a year into it. Everyone's been very supportive. Everyone has, really been there. And I'm very grateful for all the opportunities I've been given. And I'm kind of hoping that, I give back, but I also, make the people who are giving me these opportunities proud.
Excellent. What's your final words for your opponents on February 28th? What message do you want to convey to them, because they're standing in your way, literally and figuratively, of your goals? What do you want to convey to them at this time?
Well, everyone saw who I was and what I could do at the last, Mud Creek Stampede. But it's been over a month now, and it'll be over 2 months since then. And a lot for me has changed, physically and mentally. I am a lot stronger. I am a lot smarter, and you can't prepare for, a wild animal when you back it into the corner. They're unpredictable. So for my opponents, if you get in my way, I'm going to strike you down. If you steal a win, you're going to have a target on your back. I'm going to deal out as much punishment as I can, but I'm coming to win. I'm very determined. And, looking around, not a lot of other big guys in that match. So bodies will be flying.
Yes, fans, that will be one of the, as per usual, feature attractions of this card, Frozen Fight Night, February 28, 2026. Again, you're going to want to get your tickets to see this man in action. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson, are also on the card, facing the very talented High Seas. There's just too many great matches to run down at this time, but this man right here, Grizzly Olson, will be one to watch. And I want to thank you, sir, for coming on episode 2 of Fast Forward to Frozen Fight Night.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be Grizzly.
Well, fans, that's it for this edition of Fast Forward to Frozen Fight Night. Until next time, I'm Jack Kilby, and I will see you at the matches. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like if you enjoyed it. Be sure to follow us on all social media platforms at Cheap Heat Productions. Don't forget to hit the notification button, and you won't miss any of our upcoming interviews, recurring programs, or entertainment products.